When it comes to music coverage on this channel, as much as I've produced and released to this point, I haven't given too much concentration to other artists in the way of covers. And this is a big thing among many of the groups I listen to. They'll take a mainstream song, maybe one that's popularized. For example, one of my favorite groups, Red, the music group Red, they did a cover to Sia's Unstoppable for one of their later albums, and earlier for Innocence and Instinct. That first one was featured on Declaration, and then the other one, I think it's Declaration, I think that's the name of the latest album. And then Innocence and Instinct, they featured Ordinary World as a cover from the original Duran Duran song. So there are a couple groups I've listened to that have tapped into that. I'm only mentioning one, at least an example here. We'll get to another one in a minute, of course, who this video is centered around, but I don't tend to listen to too many covers myself, other than maybe with exception to independent artists. Like people you see on YouTube, for example, Blackbriar. They're a European group. We'll mention them later in the video. But in the context of that group, I think about an independent YouTuber that I saw one time. Actually, a couple times, given the number of videos she's done for the specific group. But she's, done her own variations of the song, of her own type of styling. It matches the material, but in terms of her vocality. And she's extremely talented. There's many other YouTubers, I'm sure, that follow in that same path, to varying degrees into different genres, different styles. It's something I need to venture into a little more. But, I like watching independent artists. I haven't listened to too many mainstream covers, though, for the most part, with certain exceptions. Snow White Blood, I have not listened to a cover from them yet. But I generally really like this group. And as I was saying, speaking of Blackbriar, probably some of you are like, well, of course, maybe you don't recognize the name Snow White Blood immediately, but you would if I say Uli Perhonen, who was featured on Blackbriar's collaboration song for a couple sequences ago. It was called Snow White and Rose Red. I'm sure many Blackbriar fans know that one. Not just because, Zora Kolk, the front lead vocalist for that group, if you're not familiar with Blackbriar, she's super talented. Her voice is mesmerizing. But Uli Perhonen, that was my first introduction to her. So as I've seen from many of the comments to Snow White Blood's videos, their different songs, that's a common thing. It's like, how did we find out about Snow White Blood? Oh, through Blackbriar, and it's always the same song. I actually think they're touring right now in Europe, I believe, together. So that's pretty cool. But anyway, of course, I'm in America, so it's always the European groups. They never come over to America. Same with Dead by April. I'm waiting for them to come over. But anyway, Uli Perhonen, that's how I found out about her ever since Snow White Blood. And I'm not much of an opera guy, but blending that with the gothic rock style that Blackbriar's known for, I thought was very unique. And her voice is, she's an extremely talented singer. So then I gave some listens to Snow White Blood. I think I've listened to about 3 tracks at this point from them, including Lullaby for the Undead, Never Ending Waltz, and You Belong to Me, the latest of which is one of my favorites. Well, they're all good, but You Belong to Me, as I've been saying for a little while in the music-related videos, I'm going to be releasing a channel soon at the start of a new year, hopefully, called Symphonies and Small Talk, which is not going to be, it's going to intertwine with this one, but this is more music reaction based upon first listens. Symphonies and Small Talk is going to allow me to talk about music that I've already listened to that I think, more people deserve to know about, especially maybe, for Snow White Blood. I'm sure they would love some more recognition, because I don't know, I have no friends that talk about them, for example, and I'm like, that's typical of me, though. I tend to listen to groups that, like, no one knows about. So anyway, but I tend to find the more extremely talented ones, to be honest with you. So it's kind of, it works out for me. So that channel is going to focus more so on music that I want to elevate, in regard to, just talking about how talented the artists are, how, artistic it happens to be, how dynamic the tracks themselves are, whether it be to the structure of the tunes or the lyrics. It's going to allow me to touch into some music that I've really wanted to talk about for a very long time. Because as I've stated, many times as well, I cover a broad range of entertainment vehicles on this channel, but music is my first love, and I've wanted to do more with it. So that channel is going to open a lot of doors. And Snow White Blood, Larger If You Belong to Me, will make an appearance, because that song is just so good, and the video is just such a beautiful blend. But I've only listened to a couple tracks from them, but so far, what was consistent with Blackbriar, again, with that rock style, and Uli jumping in there, you think of, like, opera, it's like, well, it's not exactly, blended to, like, rock for the most part, at least what I think most people envision, but jumping over to Snow White Blood, you're like, oh, no, they've got that. They also have, I don't know if they're going for, like, a gothic edge. One of their artists one of their videos in the description, I think it's actually for You Belong to Me, yeah, they identify as symphonic metal. It's beautiful, and her voice blends so beautifully. It's a wonderful tapestry of sound. So far, I've listened to only 3 tracks, I've said. I'm going to give a 4th today. And this is a cover from them. So again, it's a bit different from one of their original tracks. And I believe this is it's called Emperor's New Clothes. Some of you might recognize that title immediately, being that it's a cover based on the Panic at the Disco song of the same name. And I will be fully honest, I've never listened to really much of Panic at the Disco. Not to suggest like I don't just like them or something. I just haven't really given them a listen. But I know they're pretty popular. But I did look at their song, and while the video was strange, like I knew looking at the lyrics ahead of time before I listened to the track, it was going to have that religious bass line. I could tell immediately. And on reading on them, I could see that's very potent to, I guess, some of the nature of their rock music and their creative inspiration. It was an interesting video. It was kind of like, okay, this is a bit weird, but it was a good song, I think, overall. But I'm interested to hear what Snow White Blood brings. That was much more like usual, like hard rock style. This is symphonic metal. So what is Snow White Blood going to do with it? I'm going to go ahead and cue this up and we can all listen for ourselves together. I'm sure for those of you who are familiar with the song Emperor's New Clothes, you'll recognize it immediately. But I'm interested to hear, again, the stylization of Snow White Blood. Because I think, I do need to listen to more symphonic metal, full confession, but what I've heard of Uli so far in her band, she's a very talented singer. I love listening to her voice, and, again, I'm not a big opera guy, but I make certain exceptions when it works, usually when it's blended with rock music. The same way I've said with electronic stuff. I'm not a big EDM person, or anything like of that vein, but Dead by April, Starset, MNQN, those are exceptions I've made because, again, of the way it's integrated into other concepts within the tunes and the creative artistry. But let's give Emperor's New Clothes a look, and I'll be able to say I covered my first musical cover with Snow White Blood. There, come on. There we go. Again, like I said, it was an interesting song. From the get-go, this is good. That's beautiful. They're the vocals. And you Blackbriar fans are like, oh yeah, I remember this woman.
Welcome to the end of eras. Ice has melted back to life. Done my time and served my sentence. Dress me up and watch me die. If it feels good, tastes good.
That's good. Ooh. Well, she kept that a bit of a lower pitch. That's interesting. Again, she gets a much higher octave. But it's obviously methodical. But you can kind of hear it there. Like I said, the song is a very interesting concept. And if you look in the backstory, it's even more intriguing. It's very complex. They're pretty straightforward though on the delivery of the video. So beautiful. I wonder if they're doing this one like as part of a live tour. That'd be great to do. It's beautiful. There you go. See, for those of you who first is their introduction to Uli, you can see why I make exception. Well, at least they're only showing us much enough to keep that tame, right? I appreciate that, by the way. I run a clean operation here. That's beautiful. I would love to see an orchestra, but I believe they do. I think I've seen a couple videos from Blackbriar specifically that they have an orchestra behind them, at least for some of their performances. I think they do. Maybe it's a bit older, but I saw that footage. But wouldn't that be kind of cool to see? I mean, I don't know. They probably have to get some sort of agreement worked out with Panic at the Disco, but or like we can use this song, but wouldn't that just be cool to watch on stage? Wow. Woo! That's beautiful. Wow. Like I told you, if this is your first introduction to Snow White Blood, I guess by and large, but more so Uli Pahonen, a lot of us knew she was very talented again from that Blackbriar song. Like, who is this chick? She's great. But then you look at some of her music and you're like, wow, again, blending that opera edge to metal. It's just, I think it works perfectly. And just the beautiful orchestra tapestry in this song in the background, and even her vocals. I did note this as well with Panic at the Disco, that their frontman, Brendan, I forget his last name, but I was reading up on him, that apparently he's well known for his vocal range. And you can clearly tell when she does that in the chorus after the finders, keepers, losers, weepers, that part where she wavers her voice. Because you can hear it originally in the first song that he really doesn't climb up in terms of pitch. But you're listening to her and you're like, well, it's a little more subdued from what she does normally. Because again, she can get much higher. I mean, again, her past work is bore evidence to that, with especially in past examples, You Belong to Me, Never Ending Waltz. You can really hear it there. And the other one too, Lullaby from the Undead, you can hear it in the chorus. But you can listen to it and you're like, okay, clearly there is a methodology, and it's working up to, I guess, that crescendo. And that middle part really got me, where I guess it's verse leading in, where that mortal kings are ruling castles. Again, the song is very poetic, by the way. I kind of liked reading it. The backstory is very interesting. The video, like I said, was a bit off-putting and weird. It's kind of creepy. But, I'm like, okay, I get the concept of what you're trying to say. But this song is beautiful. I think there's definitely an ominous feeling lended to it from the different key that they pick, which you see oftentimes with covers. Some artists change it up. Maybe some remain inconsistent. Maybe, especially like some independent YouTubers out there, I've seen them take basically an instrumental version and employ their own vocals, and that's how they manufacture a cover. Some artists change it entirely, so it's a different pitch, different sound. In this case, it has an added symphony. It's just beautiful, though. I love it. I love Snow White Blood. And like I said, I love to recognize groups that may be seldom talked about, especially in my circles. So yes, I'll be the odd one out, and everybody I know being like, "Who's that?" I can't mention these groups, and they'll look at me with like, crazed eyes, like, "Where do you find these people?" But I'm like, they're excellent. It's like you need to broaden your perspective out a little bit. Maybe look to Europe. They have quite a creative library, apparently. What are your guys' thoughts with Snow White Blood? If this is the first introduction, what is your opinion? I know this is a bit different from like looking at maybe one of their original tracks, which, as I said, coming up with symphonies and small talk, we'll delve into at least a couple of those. I don't know how many, other than maybe a couple of the ones that I've mentioned. But I mean, what is your opinion of their first cover? And for those of you who are more familiarized with this group, and maybe you're like, okay, the cover's a bit different. It's very similar in style, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on it down below. Long story short, though, I love it. I think it's another, great addition to their library. I have to listen to at least a couple more of their songs from their other albums. I mean, they got quite a sizable amount of tunes, at least when I checked the online, store you can buy the songs from and stuff on your phone or whatever. They still have a creative library. I've looked at most of their music videos, but not all of their songs. And from what I've heard, I've really liked. I really like this group, and this is no exception. I mean, again, I've thought Uli Pahonen is very talented since Snow White and Rose Red with Blackbriar, and this is just another credit to that. It's just a beautiful song. Her voice is mesmeric, and the overall tune is great. I'm sure Panic at the Disco will be very proud. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.